Beyond the Wrench with Jay Goninen from Find a Wrench.
Welcome to Beyond the Wrench. My name is Jay Goninen, and I am your host. Today, I welcome Andrew Sneed to the podcast. Andrew is a lead technician with RepairSmith, who is a partner of ours on the WrenchWay and Find a Wrench side. A great company. We had Joel Milne on a couple weeks ago, and I think this is a really cool conversation to have because Andrew is actually boots on the ground. Andrew is out doing that job. So how are you today, Andrew?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How, I guess before we get into the RepairSmith stuff, I want to kind of dive into your background. What led you into automotive repair in the first place? Is it something you grew up with, or was it something that you just kind of took an interest in?
Well, I was always into cars. I guess I could say it started when I was a little kid, playing the video games. And as I grew older, eventually I needed a car. So I purchased my first car, didn't really have the money to have a clutch done on it. So I took it to a buddy's house, a mentor, I guess you could call him. And we did it in his driveway. And I kind of fell in love from that point on. Always been into the technical things, taking things apart, putting them back together, but never a car up until that point. And it was rewarding, extremely rewarding. And I loved it, passionate about it now.
And when did you, from there, what kind of took it to the next level where you're like, I want to make a career out of this?
So yeah, I actually ended up going to a community college for a semester. And I actually lucked out. And I mean, that's how I look at it anyway.
Yeah.
I was able to get a job in the career that I was going to school for. So I ended up not finishing school. But like I said, I was able to do what I was going to school for. So it was, I had reached the end goal there. It wasn't the best job, but it was a job, and I didn't hate it. It was great. Like I said, I was passionate about it, and I still am. I think it's very important, to go to work and do what you love to do, and it's not work at that point. So
yeah, I love that. And so you went really from not having a background or maybe a family member or somebody like that was in automotive prior to you pursuing this, right? Like it was kind of just something that you were playing, you were gaming and thought that was pretty cool and wanted to kind of take that to the next level. Necessity made you change your clutch. And something you just kind of it kind of fell into your lap, right?
Yeah, my family, we come from journeyman electricians, plumbers, all the trades in my family.
Yeah.
So it was about time somebody started working on cars.
Well, that's cool though. I think that goes to show a lot of people that listen to this podcast that not everybody comes from that traditional background of growing up in it or. That there's other avenues that get people interested in our industry, which I think is a really, really big piece, especially as we're trying to attract and develop younger talent. I think that's a huge point. So let's talk about RepairSmith. What is it that you do with RepairSmith?
So I started with RepairSmith back in November of 2019, back when the company was in its true infancy. I would still consider us in our infancy, but this was in the very beginning. I came on as a technician, the first out-of-state technician for the company, and the first technician in Vegas, launching the market pretty much on my own for the first week, and then the following week we had our second technician. Wow. So it was just us two for I want to say 5 months, and then we finally got our third technician. But yeah, it was remarkable. I mean, the change was incredible. I mean, going from a shop setting into a mobile setting for the first time, and I was very positive about it. I wasn't nervous. I'm very capable of speaking to a customer, and that's one of the harder things to do, especially when you're attracting talent. Have somebody that knows how to work on cars and as well as talk to the customer respectfully and handle a situation where you can upsell or, have that one-on-one without it being uncomfortable for either party.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, yeah, it was just him and I for the first 5 months. And it was, like I said, it was great. It was, like you said, feet on the ground. It was crazy.
How was it the first, like the first week you start with RepairSmith? They just hand you keys to a van and say, hey, good luck. Or is it,
No.
I mean, you've got some processes that you're trying to work out, or was it some of the stuff that they already had kind of in place?
Yeah, so the process was kind of already in place. Everything from the time I started to currently, a lot of things have changed.
Sure.
But like I said, going from the infancy into where we are now, of course, there's going to be a lot of change. When I was brought on, I had a trainer. He came up, stayed in Vegas. It was actually the week of SEMA, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I was able to go while on the job. But yeah, no, it was great. Even throughout all the struggle, you don't come into something like this and not expect to go through change, and
Right.
that's a challenge on its own, because not everybody's able to take that change and be like, this is for the better. It's going to be hard now, but the reward will be worth the challenge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the only way we will ever evolve as a company, is through change and through trial, and see if this works. If it does, great. If it doesn't, then we'll figure something else out. But you're going to face that.
Yeah.
So if there had to be a challenge, that would probably be it.
So what drew you to the mobile side? I know you had experience in shops and physical shops, and then you see this opportunity that is different probably than anything else that was out there, right? I mean, was it something that you kind of put all the variables together and you're thinking, okay, this is kind of cool. It gives me some level of independence, or some flexibility. What was it that really kind of drew you to be to that mobile side?
I think really it was all about the customer engagement. I did, however, I was doing, some moonlight work where I was already mobile and having to deal with my own customer satisfaction and all that. So I kind of had an idea of where I wanted to be, and I had originally thought of just launching my own very small business, absolutely not to the scale.
Yeah.
Whether it was myself as a technician, the service advisor, the dispatcher, taking on all of those responsibilities, or it was myself and another person kind of sharing those responsibilities. So I had already been kind of juggling that thought around, and then I came home from my job at the time. Whatever it was, whether I was upset for the day or whatever, I went online and I Google searched automotive technician jobs, and up came RepairSmith, and I put in my application, and the rest is history. So
that's cool. Is there anything that you've learned since going to the mobile side that you like that maybe wasn't like you thought it was going to be, if that makes any sense? Like, was there any surprises when you got out and started kind of working your area?
I was actually quite surprised at the amount of customers we got as quickly as we got them, especially in a new market. People were raving about it. They were like, this is a genius idea. How come nobody did this sooner? And there have been attempts in the past, but nothing has been executed the way that we have executed it.
Yeah.
And I think that's key, having a distinct image in the consumer's eye. Our big blue vans or small blue vans, whatever, they're all blue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know who's coming. We present ourselves in an extremely professional manner. And I think that's really the key. As far as I forget what the actual question was.
Well, no, it just like any surprises when you got out there. But I think you hit that on the head, where when you go into something, especially a newer company, trying to get a feel of, okay, is there real traction out there? Is this something that the consumer really, really wants? And I'm sure there's some level of gratification once you start in the field and you're like, oh yeah, man, there's a whole bunch of demand for this. Like, and then to have that, in talking with Joel, the cool part is just understanding the technology that goes behind that. And some of the stuff that maybe, if you were to do an independent, kind of mobile service on your own, you wouldn't have access to some of that stuff that is making your job easier. I think it's similar from the standpoint of, like, I'll talk to techs that want to start their own shops, and some of the stuff that maybe they don't understand up front that goes into it is so important, because they, with the day that you take on your own business, like, the actual repair becomes secondary. Keeping your business going becomes the foundation. And then, everything else in trying to keep those customers happy, everything like that, it adds a whole other element where you kind of get the best of both worlds here, where you get the freedom, you get kind of that ability to go out, talk to customers, hopefully develop a relationship with customers, that kind of thing, where you're gaining that trust. And then, it's a happy thing when they see that blue van come around the corner, right? Like it's cool.
And you're exactly right. I mean, you said it kind of gives you a taste of both worlds. So in a way, I love that aspect of it. Because I was considering doing this on my own, I became an employee for somebody else, but I was still able to attract my own customers. I was able to build a rapport with customers. I had several, regular customers who really, vibed with me, and we got along, and they were just happy to find somebody that they could trust. And on top of that, the transparency between technician and consumer is kind of unheard of. If I to speak honestly, and I love that more than anything. Seeing, being the guy in the cape, being the hero for the day for that person in particular, it's always a good feeling. But having the skill set to provide relief or happiness or any positive emotion in somebody is always, that's what the job's all about. In my opinion, like you said, that's the secondary part. The money is secondary. I'm just happy to be helping somebody in need.
That's cool. I see that trait in a lot of really good technicians, that like that their heart is into figuring out stuff and trying to help people. And I think that goes for just any general person. Like if the best people try to help out other people, and I think there's a lot of value in that. But walk me through what a day in your life looks like. Like, what you just wake up in the morning and it's 8 o'clock and you go out and you work for 8 hours and then you're home, or how does a typical day look for you?
So you're pretty much correct in your assumption. So yeah, you'd wake up, you go to your van. That's when your day starts. So that's when you're punching in, and you're at work. So then you would go to your parts warehouse, wherever that may be. We have several accounts. So let's just say O'Reilly's, for example.
Sure.
You would stop at your O'Reilly's. The dispatch team they've looked at your day schedule, and they've ordered all of the parts that we know we need to that store. So you pretty much have everything that you need for the day in your first stop.
Wow.
With the exception of diagnosis repairs. So if you go out to a car and you diagnose it, you say, hey, Mr. Customer, this is the problem. You get to talking to your service advisor. We come up with an estimate. We provide that estimate. They say, yeah, go ahead, let's do it. We can, we always try to get them settled same day, because that means setting up another time slot, which is time that we could be, using to make, to have another appointment for somebody else. So that's kind of the real goal, is just trying our hardest to make sure that we can take care of it that same day. But in that case, you would then return, obviously, to pick up whatever you may need. But that's really the only exception. And then you would go to your first appointment. Usually our first appointments are 8:30, 9 in the morning. Meet and greet with the customer, then making, verifying what the actual problem is, moving on to the performing whatever it may be, whether it's diagnosis or, replace part A, part B. Then following that, you would do your inspection, regular, general inspection.
Yeah.
Then after that, we would go over our findings with the customer. That way, and I find that that's always the most successful way to have, when you show a customer a bill for $1,200, they are going to see the dollar amount and they're not even going to bother reading the words. So taking that 5 extra minutes and just being like, hey, showing them what the actual problem is, allowing them to process what the problem is, and then looking at a dollar amount is always, you see more success that way.
Yeah.
And it also keeps both parties calm. The last thing we want to do is present you something that's, and then the next thing you know, it's, hey, get out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also you're at their property. So like they're in charge. They are the boss, not you. So it's hard to be like, no. It's hard to sway somebody because you're on their turf.
Right.
So yeah, just, you want to be as tactful as possible. But at the same time, execute your work with accuracy. And then, at that point you would take payment from the customer and so on. I mean, you rinse and repeat for the rest of the day. Typically I would get home around 6:30. So you look at from 8 in the morning till 6:30 at night. It's 10-hour shifts. We're very vigilant on a 4-10 schedule. We really want that for our techs because it's very common, at least in my experience, when you are in a shop setting, it's very easy to be overworked.
Yeah.
And then you kind of have no work-life balance. So this way we're providing our technicians with, you have 3 days off to spend time with your kids, your family, and so forth. It's great. That was another big selling point as far as joining on.
Are you able to tune out like for those 3 days? Like, do you have, like, as you're building those customer relationships, are they calling you directly, or are they calling dispatch and then like everything's funneled through dispatch?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything is funneled through our service advisors or dispatch. And then, there was days where I would be off on a Thursday because my shift would end on a Wednesday. And then I would see that same customer from Tuesday on the following week's schedule, and I had no contact with them at all.
Really?
So it's very nice. You're able to check out completely for your time off, for the most part, unless, I'm calling you saying, hey, you know anything about this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are really the only times that you'd be contacted.
But that's cool. Like to be primarily on the road and still be able to tune out too. I think that's especially as we get further and further into this, in the work-life balance and trying to understand that piece with what technicians want to see. I think that's so valuable. And not only that, you give your body some time to recoup. If you're on your legs for 10 hours a day for 4 days a week, anything and you're on cement, like it can be tough on the body. So like to be able to get that extra day to recover, I think is important for the longevity of a career of a technician too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and not only that, but as we previously talking about the weather as well. I mean, when you're, especially in Vegas and it's 115 degrees out and you're outside majority of the day, shade is your best friend, but it's very nice to feel like you're also being taken care of. Right. I mean, from an employee standpoint, you never want to feel like what you have to say doesn't matter, or we're not taking the weather or anything into consideration. We truly want to provide the best environment and experience for not only our consumers, but also our employees as well. It's a very important target to hit, because in a shop setting, I mean, all I know is, you work hard and maybe we'll notice, or you expect to be noticed.
Yeah.
And then here it's if you're killing it out there, you're doing a great job, you're going to be put in a spotlight whether you like it or not. But I love that. I love that there is an actual, you know, there's the possibility of being noticed for being a great technician, for providing great customer service. You know, I truly adore that because it's not something that I had ever experienced before.
Yeah, I love that too. One thing that is fascinating to me is how do you prep yourself to go out in like a day when it's 115 degrees out? Like, I mean, is it like you mentally, you're from Vegas, so that like helps. But I think of myself, one, I will say the worst sunburn I've ever got was in Las Vegas working at a trade show. And it was cloudy out that day, and I like the top of my forehead was like purple from standing outside all day, and I had no idea. It didn't even feel like I was getting sunburned, but I got lit up. But two, how do you like? Is there a mental aspect to that as well, where you're kind of like, okay, I know it's going to be hot today. I need to hydrate. I need to do this stuff. I mean, do you kind of look at it like a challenge of like, okay, I need to make sure I do all of this, or is it just kind of, you know what, I grew up in Vegas, I know what this is all about, not a big deal?
Personally, I truly believe it's mind over matter. Because there was days, I mean, sure, you're dripping sweat, but there's days where, you know, you're working on an Econoline and you got the doghouse out, and you're just sweating bullets, and you don't even care. At least that's how I am. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm very, I forget what it's called, but all I want to do is get the job done, and I'll take care of me later. But that's just me. I mean, we do have easy ups to provide a shaded structure.
Okay.
Which, you know, personally, I would only use if I was planning on being there for more than 2 hours. Otherwise, it's just not worth the time to set it up.
Right.
And then also the company this is one of those things, was nice enough to send out to all of our desert technicians, all of the vans. We got 5-gallon igloo buckets with the little spout on the bottom. We fill it up with ice, you know, stop at a gas station in the morning, fill it up with ice, 2 gallons of water, and you're good for the next 3 days. So
nice.
that was lovely. I mean, what a pleasant surprise.
Right. Well, and it's almost necessity, but then at the same time, it's like, okay, they're thinking about me as a person. They're not thinking about this as like, okay, what is my ROI on how much this ice is going to help, or this ice water is going to help us. It's more like, these are humans, like they need to stay hydrated.
And I had purchased, it would have been very easy for you know, for us to be like, we'll just, you know, go to the store and buy one.
Yeah.
They're not more than $10, but it's always the you know, the action, what they did it without us having to be like, you know, cause us think about it.
Right.
It was they just did it because we're genuinely good people, you know.
Right.
I had already purchased one for myself, but then to get another one, I mean, it was just, and they knew that I had one already, but they're like, no, we'll send you one.
That's awesome.
So yeah, like I said, it's always nice to feel like you're cared for.
Well, I think that's what techs care about, it, whether you're in a shop or mobile or wherever you're at. And, you know, like I say that about techs, but really anybody is, you know, it might not just be the monetary side of it, but it's the fact that they thought about that, in that, you know, hey, this might make their job a little bit easier in some regard. And I think that goes such a long way when you are out there and you're like, hey, yeah, you know what, at least they're thinking of me. I know, like there's some, it doesn't matter where you work, there's going to be something that sucks about it. Like, and if they can make that a little easier on you, I think that goes a long way.
Absolutely. And you truly win the heart of your employees. And I mean, the only way to see success is to keep them happy.
Yeah, 100%. So what kind of repairs are you doing on the road? Like it sounds like a pretty wide scope of repair, right?
So personally, which we don't do this anymore, but within my, I believe, third month with the company, I did a cylinder head gasket in the field on a Mitsubishi Lancer. So overhead cams, and timing was involved, and he had bent valves because the belt snapped.
Oh boy.
So that was a couple day ordeal, you know, go out, remove the head, machine shop, pick it up in 2 days, come back out the following day, install it, put it all back together, bing, bang, boom, you got a running engine. So I've actually done 2 cylinder head gaskets in the field. I would say that that is well beyond what is expected, what is expected of our technicians currently.
Okay.
We would 100% be getting with a partner shop and having that vehicle towed to that partner shop and just let them take care of that. Because, 2 days down for, $2,000 isn't ideal.
Right.
You'd rather be out there utilizing more, seeing more customers, getting the name around more, and so on. So that we value that more than, and plus you're running into the risk of weather as well. I mean, you don't want to have a cylinder head off and the next thing they can't get to it for a week at the machine shop. You come back, you got little rust pockets on top of your pistons or whatever.
Right.
You don't want any of that. So it's not only is it better for cleanliness, but in general for the customer, it's going to be a better experience. Obviously, we do oil changes. So I guess the perfect answer would have been, from oil changes to head gaskets. But yeah, we're not, like I said, we're not doing that anymore. So, but yeah, we do transmission services, drain, filter, refill. We've done, just about anything you can think of, other than pulling a transmission, pulling an engine, and obviously now cylinder heads.
Yeah.
But pretty much anything else, we can do at a customer's location.
So like if like general diagnostics, right? Like if you had a no start condition, just go out and diagnose it just like you would if you were in a shop, right? Like you just
Absolutely.
go out and you've got the tools, you've got the vans, which I'm curious about. How are those tooled? Like, do you have like a torch? Do you have like a welder, or like you're not, if it gets that far, you're going to a partner shop?
What a wonderful question. I had actually, within the last week, we had, for one job in particular, I went out and bought a MAP gas torch and a flux core welder for one job in particular. So no, we don't have those on the vid.
Which is probably all right.
Yeah, which is great. If pretty much like you said, if you have to bust those tools out, chances are you're in over your head.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we found ourselves in. It got to the point, things broke off in the cylinder head. I could get into the story, but it should have been something that we just from the get-go said, hey, no, we're going to get this to a partner shop.
Which is part of learning it too, right? Like I think
Absolutely.
as you don't know your boundaries until you kind of push them a little bit. And I think that's the unique part about what you guys have done, is really kind of understand what is really feasible to do on the road, and then what is maybe, it's better to send to a partner shop. I will say those, you guys have some territories in Wisconsin, and I know for a fact that they're probably going to need a torch or a welder at some point, because the rust is going to be far worse up here than it is for you down in Vegas.
Absolutely. So, and I don't know what those build outs look like, because that's that region is specifically for fleet.
Yeah.
And I can't say that they're doing, crazy suspension things where the bolt hasn't moved in 30 years, you know what I mean? So maybe when we get into the general public market in those areas where the weather is really bad, I'm sure that we will make the adjustments.
Yeah.
Just like we got our water buckets in California. I can't remember if they sent them out to everybody, but I know that it was specifically for us in Vegas, Phoenix, Tucson. We were receiving that. So I would imagine be something similar to that.
Okay.
But, along those lines.
So how big of a territory do you cover? Is it just like the greater Las Vegas area?
Yeah. So my service, when I was a technician, my service area was all of Las Vegas. So, up in Northwest Centennial, all the way to Southeast Henderson, everywhere in between.
Okay.
It was, we covered it all. And then, so our service regions are typically citywide.
Do you get a lot of like tourist stuff there? Like or is it not? I can't imagine in Vegas, like how that looks.
Funny enough, my first appointment with the company was from somebody who was visiting from out of town. Somebody had actually crawled underneath their car and cut their fuel line in half and tried and put a catch pan underneath just to get the fuel out for whatever reason. But anyway, yeah. So we do. I've experienced, I would say 99% of our calls are going to be from locals, and then
Sure.
that 1% is going to be the people who are just visiting, or they'll set up an appointment and they're like, we'll call and be like, yeah, something came up. We have to move your appointment. And they're like, well, just please make sure you come today because I have to be home tomorrow. And it's like, okay. So we do run into those things, but typically it's the locals.
It's probably better that way, right? Like if you get a bunch of crazy Vegas guests, you probably it's probably not quite the clientele you're looking for. But
yeah,
I'm curious. One thing that I'm curious with mobile, and this is something that is just, I don't know, it's kind of fascinating to me. But how do you keep stuff clean? Like how do you like say if you're doing a service, just a general service on somebody's cement driveway, and like you're trying to prevent oil from spilling on the driveway, and some of those stupid drain plugs are on top of a frame rail, which then like drain oil all over the place. How do you like keep it clean?
So my method was, the very shallow drip trays.
Yeah,
they're very wide enough to pretty much cover frame rail to frame rail. I would slide that underneath, and then on top of that I would put my catch, and then that way, if and wind is your worst enemy when you're doing oil changes at somebody's house, and then you pop the drain plug out, and then next thing you know, a gust of wind comes and you got oil on the rear diff now, and it's like, dang it.
So it's how'd that happen?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's very hard to be 100% accurate and not getting anything on the ground at all.
Okay.
But I tried my best, you know what I mean? And I can honestly say that we do have kitty litter, that we would sprinkle on our little drops, and then obviously sweep it up. The last thing I want to do is leave a mess of any sort, whether that was, try the stuff left behind from what you were trying to clean, you know what I mean? I would sweep it all up. I would try my hardest to just make it look like I was never there. But it is a challenge. The wind, like I said, the wind especially is the hardest part.
And I equate this to, I remember I spent a fair amount of my career in the equipment business, and obviously mobile is more prevalent on the construction equipment and ag equipment business. And we once had a customer, we had a road tech that had spilled some oil on this guy's driveway, and he was very particular. And so he called us at corporate and was like, you guys need to come out and bring a jackhammer out here and jackhammer up all my driveway and re-pour the driveway and do. I'm like, man, the spot was like, it was tiny, but it was, this guy was like I mean, he was mad. So that was an interesting one, but I think it might be easier with cars in general to be able to kind of direct where you're going to go with the oil. Like you said, the wind, if you can try to block it, or whatever it is, like I'm sure as you get out there and you get used to doing it, there's probably some techniques and some secrets that you learn over time to make it easier.
Yeah, you walk back to the van with one of these numbers, trying to keep the oil from hitting your elbow and But yeah, that's exactly right. And worst case scenario, carry a little towel underneath or whatever. Just
right.
We try our best. And I always felt, personally, obviously I'm held accountable for leaving a drop, but I would always, take it to the heart. Yes, it's just a dot, but it is not your house. That's the biggest thing to remember. It's not your property that's getting, tarnished. However, no matter how big or how small, it's not yours. So I would always personally feel bad, and customer be like, oh no, don't worry about it. Right. You know what I mean? What are you going to do? Yeah. So in a certain regard, and I'm not going to say, well, the customer should expect that this is mobile and it's not going to be perfect, because that's just not the mindset we want to set up for ourselves. Right. We want to enter this doing everything we possibly can to prevent a spill situation. Yeah. So we try.
And I think that it's as much about, again, about the mindset and the pride you have as a technician going out and and wanting to set that, that positive example. Mistakes are going to happen from time to time. And it's more like having the pride of keeping something cleaned up. And, I think I equate it to, if you have some remodeling done in your house, I mean, I've had varied levels of, some companies left behind more of a mess than others did. And, some leave dust behind and, all that. But then there's others that looks better than when they came. And I think that leaves as much of an impression as the work itself. Right. And I think that's such a key point, and something I think you guys do a really good job at. And so talk to me a little bit about your role now, because you've progressed from a really in-field technician to more of a support role of supporting all of these techs, right?
Yes, you're exactly right. So the title is deemed team lead for the desert region. So that means I'm managing 17 B2C or consumer technicians, and three technicians for fleet that I kind of have a less role in their day-to-day, but I'm still here for support for them as well.
Okay.
So yeah, and that spans from Vegas, Phoenix, and Tucson. It's definitely a change of pace for, and I'm sure maybe you have experienced this, where you go from sweating every day, doing a ton of physical labor, and then one day you're just no more. You know what I mean? And it's like, I still try to get out as much as I can, because like I said, I'm passionate about it. It's not that I don't like it anymore. It's like, but now I do have more time to work on my own toys, which is great. However, as far as benefiting my guys, I'm looking at, schedule fill, areas of improvement, making sure that they have what they need to complete the job. You know what I mean? I'm responsible for all of them, just as much as, we as a team are responsible for our area.
Okay.
So I'm doing more clerical things, trying to make it as smooth as possible for them. That's my main concern. Because I've been in their shoes. I know what it's like. You want to have everything as smooth as possible. The less hiccups, the better. Go out, do work, provide excellent customer service, and go home and feel like you did something great, instead of go home and be like angry because something didn't go right. And you know what I mean? That's more or less what I'm trying to avoid in my position.
Okay.
And just in general, improve the quality of life for all of my guys, and doing that, my life will also improve.
Well, and you're taking some of the same principles that you used when you were going directly to the customer, and like you talked about with the pride and how you leave the job site, and how you apply that to your people. And you start, obviously, I think it helps because you've been in their shoes before, especially in that desert region, there's unique challenges that are different than other areas of the country, but what they're going through, and like a lot of that. When you bring on a new tech, I get the feeling you guys, RepairSmith as a company, you're looking for somebody that might be a little bit more diverse than a common technician, right? Like when I shouldn't say it that way, like you have to have some customer facing skills, right? And probably more so on the B2C side than the fleet side.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we want, and that's where it kind of gets challenging. Like I said before, is you really need to have the ability to be comfortable with people. And I know, at least when I first started working on cars professionally, I actually preferred it, coming from a customer service industry where you work retail or something like that, where all you do is deal with people. And that was kind of the benefit of working on cars, was cars don't talk back. You know what I mean? like it's just you and something to work on, nuts and bolts, all of it. That's the easy part.
Sure.
So when you transition from the easy part to the harder thing that maybe you're not so comfortable with, it is a really big deal. We want to have somebody who's comfortable in a social situation. I have a feeling that service advisors even became a job because technicians were just not comfortable relaying information to a consumer.
Yeah.
So it is a big deal. that in its own is like another skill set we're looking for. So not only do you have to work on cars, but you also have to be tactful and know how to defuse a situation with a disgruntled person. So all of that is kind of what it takes to be a technician for RepairSmith. And we take a lot of pride in the people that we do have, because we know that the skill set we're looking for, or I should say skill sets, is not an easy find. It's not something you're going to find every day.
Yeah. So when you start somebody new, say in Phoenix, do you travel down to Phoenix then and to travel with them, or is it more just kind of remotely like working with them to get through their first few weeks, or how does that kind of onboarding process look with a new tech?
So the onboarding process we would pair them up with another technician. They would do their training for the first week. First day they have orientation, which is virtual, more so due to COVID.
Right.
But I have a feeling once we get back in the swing of things, I would much rather be there in person, just so that they're more comfortable. I know that anything virtual these days is the least comfortable thing for most people. But yeah, they would do their first week of training, and then on that Friday, we'll have a conversation. How comfortable are you? Do you feel like you fully understand the processes? And 100% of the time that answer is yes.
They're sick of training by that point.
Yeah. So we'll get them off that van, and then we'll set them up on a schedule where they're either working out of a new build out, or we're pairing them up with an existing technician who was working, X amount of days a week, and now we can 100% utilize that van. So that's either way it goes. And then the benefit of having somebody who is in an existing van is, you have some sort of camaraderie, whether you're seeing them every morning for van pickup or van exchange or whatever the case may be, depending on the schedule that we're tackling in that region. You still have the sense of camaraderie. You understand that you're not alone.
Yeah.
I mean, you only see this person one day out of the week, but that's usually the most soothing day of the week. You know what I mean? Because you have a vent at that point. You can get it all out. Have some laughs. Just things that you would do every day at a metal shop.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like that's the biggest, probably the most challenging change, actually, if I had to mention it, is just not being able to joke around with your team every single day, every minute. You can just say something, somebody's going to hear it, and they're going to respond, because that's just how you are. So yeah, that is so then they would pretty much be on their own after that. And if they had any questions, needed anything, obviously I'm here for support. And then our GM is obviously also in support. As far as physical support, like us actually being in Phoenix, we actually have a plan for a month-over-month visit. So he'll visit, then I'll visit, he'll visit, I'll visit.
Nice.
That way we kind of keep everybody in tune. You're always seeing somebody in a supervisory position fairly frequently. Not as frequent as we'd like, but fairly frequently.
Yeah. And I'm sure for you, like Vegas to Phoenix is an easy flight, and it's not, it's not like you're going across the country to go visit them, like it's
Right.
a pretty simple exchange there. So, and being on the same time zone probably helps too.
Yeah, actually, to speak on that, we're actually not.
You're not?
I believe Arizona does not do daylight savings time,
whereas
Nevada does.
Yes.
So they're an hour ahead currently, but later on in the year we will go back and we'll be on the same time.
Arizona throws everybody for a curveball.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's challenges within its own right based on that fact. But yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, I did drive this last time I went. It's only 4.5 hours. It's nothing crazy. So
not bad.
It was a simple, quick turnaround. Went out and had dinner with the team. So
cool. Last question in regard to the mobile side. How do you coordinate your day in terms of, are you coordinating based on where you're at? Like, so if you're in Vegas and I start in one area, are you trying to do like a big circle, or is it kind of a zigzag? Or you like, how is it just depending on the day, like who's requesting service?
That is a perfect question. And let me tell you why. So initially, regions were based on the entirety of the region. So Las Vegas, there was no, distinct lines, this area, this district, that district, nothing. It was just all of Vegas. I live pretty much as far southwest in Vegas as you can go. But that means I would get like a northeast job, which is on the complete opposite side of town, which is not as crazy as some places in California where it takes you an hour to go 20
Right.
miles. Pretty much you can get from anywhere to anywhere in Vegas in about 30 minutes. So in that regard, not too bad. We ended up actually going to a split district, if you will, for the Vegas area, where our northern technicians would stay north and only take north jobs. Our southern technicians would only stay south and only take south jobs. What we found was that in the areas that were more prominent, we saw more business there, and that kind of led to an unfair advantage depending on where you live geographically. So
Sure.
we've now removed that invisible line, and now you're able to go work on anywhere in the city again. And that's a perfect example for trial and error as well.
Right.
You try something out, you see it's not working, it's unfair as well, and that's not what we want to provide. And we definitely don't want only 2 vans in a region having jobs every day of the week, or throughout the entire day, as well as every day throughout the week, and then your other vans are struggling to get jobs. That's just
Right.
not fair.
Right.
So like I said, now we've relinquished that, and we're slowly we definitely saw success immediately after we changed that. So
Cool. Well, this is great conversation. I'm learning a lot about mobile service, and I admittedly don't know on the automotive side the mobile side as much. I've learned a lot with everything that you guys are doing at RepairSmith. I think it's I told Joel this too, just an outstanding business model. I think it provides opportunities for technicians that might not have been there before, and just a different, I don't know, kind of a different feel of this. It's kind of different, but the same kind of, I don't know. I think you get the benefits of in shop, and you have the flexibility. And honestly, sometimes it's probably nice just to jump in a van after a job and turn on the air conditioning and go to the next place. So I don't know. I love what you guys are doing. I'm a big fan of all of you. I think a lot of you guys, and I just appreciate you joining us today for the podcast.
absolutely. If you care to hear, I have
Yeah.
one more benefit.
Yeah.
Having the ability to kind of look at your day the day before, and if you're unsure about how do I do this, or what do I need special tools or whatever, you're able to go into ProDemand, for instance, type in the VIN number for that vehicle, look up the process, and just verify that you are indeed ready to take on that job. And I think that's one of the beautiful things, because in a shop you never know it's walking through that door.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a certain aspect of
Well, you can kind of visualize your day ahead of time.
yeah,
And yeah. I
you
like that.
definitely have an idea of what's going on, rather than it being a complete surprise. You know what I mean? So that's just one more thing to take into consideration. You know what I mean? It's great.
What so to leave off on this podcast, what advice would you give to a technician that might be considering going the mobile route over maybe a traditional shop?
Yeah, just make sure your heart's in the right place. Honestly, you want to do this for the right reasons. It's not everything in life is financial, right? So
Right.
you want to go out and you want to see those smiles that you're locked in a cage in a shop, and not saying that shops are a bad place, but
No.
but you want to have that interaction. You want to be able to have a one-on-one with the customer, kind of, and grow your clientele as well. Because what RepairSmith does is it kind of allows you to be your own, be your own boss, but to feel like you're in charge. It's just you in the van every day. You are in charge. You can talk to the customer, take care of the situation, be like, hey, look, I can do this for you. You that's all in your jurisdiction. You're able to do all of that. So if it's something you truly want to do, keep in mind of, everything, keep in mind of all the bad things as well. Just look at this from a reality standpoint instead of just saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to do this blindly and we'll see how it goes.
Right.
Because it does take a certain type of person to see success.
Love the message. Love what you're doing, Andrew. I think it's very progressive, and appreciate you joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.